Welcome back to Mosaics. I'm Holly Beach, your host with Idaho Office for Refugees. And today we are here with Sangam Kumari. She is going to lead a conference at our upcoming Northwest Conference on Resettlement about gentle yoga, meditation, in the lens of community as well. So I'm really excited to get to talk with you today. Thanks for being here. A little bit about Sangam's background is she was born in India in a small village, and she moved to Nepal at the age of 4. Then when she was 8 years old, a family friend who was an American, she moved back with her to the U.S. So today we'll get to hear about her story. And she got her Ph.D. in environmental engineering and is now switching gears and going into social work. So she's studying for her master's at Boise State. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here.
Of course.
So share with us a little bit about yourself. What do you want listeners to know about you?
Yeah, what do I want people to know? There's a lot I don't want you to know.
What do you not want us to know? Maybe I should have asked that. That's the more interesting question.
I'm pretty much an open book. Yeah, I think, so my name means confluence in Sanskrit. And so it's like the mixture of one or more, 3 things, whatever. In India, there's like an actual location that's called the Sangam, and it's where 3 super like renowned and holy rivers, they come together and they meet. And there's like a festival that happens, and it's one of the world's largest congregations of like people, like millions and millions of people.
Oh, wow. What's the festival called?
It's called Kumbh Mela.
Okay.
And it's a Hindu festival. And so I think my name says a lot about me. I am a confluence of multiple ideas, experiences, all of those things. And so as we talk today, I think like that side will come out where you see like 2 extreme things coming into harmony.
Mm. Yeah, and even when it comes to your cultural backgrounds, I feel like there's a lot of confluence there.
Mm-hmm.
How did you navigate that as an 8-year-old moving to a whole new culture and country and living with a different family?
Yes. So I was very adventuresome, first of all. And so I was just, I was like ready for new experiences. It was my first time on an airplane. I remember like my dad, one of the things that he said was, once I said goodbye to them, and they were like literally like crying and falling on the ground, like just falling apart completely. Once I said goodbye to them, I just took the American woman's hand and just walked away and never looked back.
Wow.
And so I think like having that temperament as a child, it made it easy, like to, go through that, what could have been a pretty traumatic experience.
What were some of your initial impressions as a kid in your new community? I think you said you were about an hour south of the Oregon border in California.
Yeah, I started out in Oakland.
Okay.
And the woman that brought me here, she wasn't able to like care for me. So the intention was to actually go back to Nepal. Mm-hmm. And then her oldest daughter offered to take care of me. And that was the place in Arcata.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your childhood like there?
That might be better for like a different conversation, just because I had, both in my biological family and the American family, I had a pretty traumatic childhood.
Okay.
And so
we don't have to get into that.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Also, I wouldn't be who I am without it. So, it's like a mixed bag.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have to get into that. Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah.
You are going into social work now after getting your PhD in environmental engineering. What was the pathway like for you? Why did you choose the initial career path, and how did you decide you wanted to switch to this one?
Yeah, so I think I was always a social worker at heart. I just didn't know. And even my engineering projects, I would always tweak them to be very social worky. And I think if my parents or the caretakers in my life, if they had known me better, they would have guided me towards social work.
Oh, okay.
And instead, it was like this weird thing where, coming from a collectivist society where it like totally matters, what your family thinks, what the extended family thinks, what the community thinks. And then this like other side of like individualism, which is saying, follow your heart. And so I always made these very strange compromises that never made anybody super happy. And so like one compromise that I made was my mom wanted me to be a doctor. And I didn't necessarily like biology very much. And so I went into environmental engineering thinking that like engineering was maybe prestigious enough for her. And then I got my doctorate to put that doctor in front of the name. And like neither one of us was happy with that. Like at least one of us could have been happy had I become a doctor or had I pursued like what really interested me. And so, my path. My dissertation was in Kenya, which was really interesting. I got to work with people in the bush, and I had 30 households that received a really simple sand filter that they used for their drinking water, which was primarily river water. And then I had 30 households that just continued their normal practices, and we looked at the prevalence of diarrhea and just other health outcomes. And it was a beautiful study. And we involved the local people in making the filters. And so you can see like how social work is really, sewn into everything that even was my dissertation, which most people were in the lab, doing like really specialized things.
Yeah, you got to be with people and seeing the direct impact on their lives. And it sounds like it worked pretty well.
Yeah. There was a 50% reduction in childhood diarrhea, which is one of the major causes of death.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in third world countries.
It's something they can continue making on their own that's like sustainable.
It's such a long and sad story. So I did set up, I helped 3 artisans set up and to build the filters, but then they had political unrest. And I don't know if things ever really went back to normal.
Okay. How much time did you get to spend with these families?
Quite a bit of time. So I was there on and off for 2 years.
Wow.
And I loved it. It was such great work.
What was, so culturally you have already, your home culture of India, you lived in Nepal, and then you have your U.S. cultural experience. What stood out to you, I guess, about the Kenyan cultural experience?
The people are very kind. They're really curious. And I find them to be very happy and light, which is really important. And I don't always, I strive for that, but I don't even come close to just the natural lightness that they have.
Yeah, that's a really good way of saying it. I like that. I got to go to Kenya for a book project a few years ago, but it definitely was not that much time invested. It was like a week, so just a small taste of it. But it was really special. So you're drawn to yoga as well. What about yoga drew you to it?
So I think I have some association with it being really positive because during my formative years I was doing yoga. And then when I was around 33, I got my certification to become a yoga instructor. And it was just like a time period where I did a lot of internal healing. And so there's also that personal connection to it. And I can see the power of it when it comes to people that have experienced anything traumatic, but also just life is hard in general. And so it's a great way to reset. And the lymph system, the liquids only move if you move. And so yoga brings you into the depths of movement. And so everything gets circulated, and it's also very healthy physically.
Yeah, when I started doing yoga, it was definitely for the physical. I was doing Pilates, and you want to get toned, and you're all about the outcome and the results. And I think a lot of our culture is about outcome and results. And that's what really drew me in, is when I realized it was definitely about the process and the moment, and not about what you're going to look like if you're going to get more toned. It was about the groundedness that you could, and connecting to parts of your body that you never think about in your day-to-day life. So it's pretty special. I agree with you. It's a really helpful practice for recovering from anxiety or just getting regrounded again, appreciating your body.
Yeah. And like looking at the history of yoga, like yoga really was so that you could have the body to sit for a long time and meditate. And so it brought you into that comfort because sitting for a long time can actually be very painful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the conference, are we going to actually do yoga in the class, or what is your vision for the workshop?
Yeah, definitely going to do some yoga. We will do some chanting together, and there's something very beautiful about that. And there will also be an element of meditation. And so the meditation part will be guided. I feel like that's more effective for beginners. And the guided also plants really pure seeds in you just to go throughout the day and just to be reminded of your own inner beauty.
I definitely want to catch that one. Do you have any tips for people who are beginning meditators or who are thinking about getting into it?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a misconception about meditation where people think that it's only supposed to be about like not having thoughts, maybe. And the actual practice is in allowing. And so allowing the thoughts to come and taking that moment to let the thought also flutter away. And so the way that I imagine it is like a thought comes, you wrap it in like abundance and compassion, and you let it float away without attachment and judgment. And that moment that you take to come like from that thought back to that, like in quotes, no thought, that's meditation. So every time you do that, that's the practice of meditation.
Oh, that's really cool. Do you ever read, I might say his name wrong, but Thich Nhat Hanh?
He's my favorite.
He's my favorite too. I have this little tiny, I got it in New Orleans last year at a bookstore. It's like a tiny book, and every day there's just a short little bit you can read. And so I read it every morning, and then I meditate. And that's one of the most valuable things I learned from him, is that if you have something uncomfortable, like a feeling that you're not liking, or you're not even aware of what it is, but something is uncomfortable, to see it and recognize it and sit with it and hug it. I mean, like embrace it with abundance. I like how you said it, and compassion. And I've been doing that, and it's like, oh, this thing I thought was something else, it's actually insecurity about this, or I feel inadequate about, and then just loving that part of myself that feels inadequate. And just the difference that it makes every day to be able to do that. So
that's so beautiful. Yeah, because we're composed of so many different things, and to have judgment on any part of that wholeness, it only brings more suffering. And so the whole idea behind Buddhism is to reduce suffering and to not have judgment in terms of the suffering that does exist. And so there's a really cool meditation, and one of the things that they say at the very end is so to like avoid attachment and aversion, but to not be indifferent. And so you can see how those two are kind of at the two extremes, where they're saying like, okay, detach, don't have a judgment on, that tough feeling or something you did, something you experienced, something somebody else did to you, just to release the attachment and the judgment that you have, but to not be indifferent. And so what that can look like is to have a difficult interaction, to allow everybody's feelings to be there, to allow the past to be as it, unfolded, and to maybe still take a pause, find your center, and then go and talk to that person. So that's like the indifference piece, is to actually do something about it, but from a centered place.
yeah, I think curiosity is a big word that comes up for me and my husband a lot. Throughout fights or misunderstandings, we always kind of try to come back to curiosity, not judgment, about yourself and about the other person and their motives or what they're going through or what they did, trying to stay curious instead of placing a judgment on it. And practicing that with myself has been really healing for me. I didn't realize what a critical voice I had in my head until I get older and you realize. And so that's been super, it's still a work in progress, but.
And it always will be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So with the workshop, what would be your hope or joy that people would walk away from?
Yeah, so I'm hoping that there will be a mix of refugees, immigrants, and also, people from the helping profession and the community at large. I'm hoping that there will be a mix because the immigrants and refugees, like most of us, we come from a collectivist society. And so there's like this safety net that we don't even think about or question. And then you get planted in the US and it's very individualistic. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just different. Mm-hmm. And so the safety net is lost, though, and that can feel really scary. Mm. And so the idea of the workshop is to bring people together and have an experience that's very communal and not magical, but it is, there's something about it that feels bigger than just the experience itself. Mm-hmm. And so there's a connection that you leave with. And it's not something that you can touch. It's like something that you can feel. Mm-hmm. And you feel like you can do more in the world when you have that level of connection. And so my idea is to take these two extremes and to marry them and to experience the best of both worlds. And so in doing meditation and yoga together, you get that communal energy that comes out. And then also in sitting in silence and even in guided meditations, you actually get to hear your own heart's calling. Mm. And so that's like the individual side of it. And so that's where it's the opposite of collectivist. And that's also so important to know what you want to do. And maybe there are voices that are telling you that you shouldn't do those things, but you know that that's like the only way that you're going to be in congruence with your own values and your own desires. And so it's this idea to take the collectivist and the individualistic side and to look at what's really great from both. And so when we do things together, we create that communal energy. And then when we do yoga and meditation, we also hear our heart and it speaks loud. And so that's why some people are also afraid of doing these kinds of practices because you can't make it quiet, like it just sings.
Oh, yeah. And it can be scary when you're not used to it or when you're not ready to hear what it's going to say.
So scary. It's still scary for me. And so, yeah. And so I want people to come and experience something new and also leave with something new and to be okay with being scared and to pursue that thing anyways.
I love that. That's really cool. For people who are newer here and they are from a collectivist background, do you have any words of wisdom for them about how to balance that or navigate it or sit with those feelings?
That's such a good question. I honestly don't have an answer. I'm in search myself to find community, and I'm not giving up anytime soon. And so if there's anybody out there that knows, something that does work, that would be great. But that's one way that I have myself continue to feel lost. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. I talk to people a lot who grew up in a collectivist society, and I think of how lovely it sounds. And then I think of it in practice and it terrifies me. And I just want to I don't want a bunch of people living with me or telling me what to do or having opinions on what I'm doing. But the idea of that greater sense of community, I like to think about the aspen trees, how they grow, but the underground, the network is so connected. And that's kind of how I want to be, where you have your own personal tree, but you're still very in tune with the connected network. So just trying to balance that in whatever culture you're in is my goal. But I like how you said that you're still looking for an answer, because I think that's how a lot of us are right now, just doing it together.
Yeah. And my answer isn't the collectivism that exists in India or Nepal, because that also has kind of what you were describing, that also has its negative sides. It's more of that marriage between the two. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that that exists yet. I don't know. Like, I feel like we're still navigating that thing. Yeah.
Like maybe we're progressing towards something together. What excites you right now in life?
Well, I'm taking classes at BSU, and a part of the master's program there is also to have an internship, and my internship is at the Wasmuth Center for Human Rights.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so, like, that's really exciting. I love my classes. I love the teachers and the students that are in the classes. And I'm excited to start the new internship too.
In a brand new building.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Soon.
Have you done practice sessions with like other students, like counseling sessions, or is it focused on a different part of therapy?
Yeah, so the program at BSU is considered a generalist track. And so they do both like direct practice, which is individual group therapy, and they also focus on like the macro issues, so policy and things like that. When I first entered the program, I was like extremely like direct oriented, so like micro practice. And then after a few classes, really amazing classes, I just swung the other way, and now I want to do like macro work that's even beyond what is typically defined as macro work.
Yeah, like what would that look like for you after like post graduation?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm always really nervous to answer this question. I really like the way that I put it right now is that I want to dismantle capitalism, and I don't know that that's how I'll always put it. Like my work is always like in research mode. And so I do like self-study of, where did the problems originate? And so right now that's just where I've landed. And yeah, so it's like beyond policy. And I don't know that any agencies exist right now that are doing that. And so I'm open to, starting my own organization or joining hands with somebody else that wants to expand their organization to include something like that.
I love that. I love the big picture, visionary thinking, like big change. And you've run your own organization before, is that correct?
Yeah, I had a small NGO right after I was done with my bachelor's. It was in India.
What did you do?
So I gathered youngsters, so like 17 to 25-year-olds. I was 21 at the time. And we basically like went out and we would clean the city streets, or like there were a lot of ponds in the area that I lived in. And so we'd go clean the ponds. I tried to build there was already like a really torn down playground in this like shanty area. And I wanted to rebuild it. So I went to the government and I said, hey, I'll pay for it. Like I'll design it. I'll do all of it. And they this is just how the government is there. Like I had to give them a bribe in order to move forward, and I wasn't willing to do that. And so I would go back. I just I just kept like jumping through hoops because this person that was the one that would approve the project, they would just be like, okay, you need to do this. So then I'd go and do that and come back, and probably did that for like months.
Wow.
While having like these little cleanup projects. And they never gave me permission. And in the meantime, I had gotten married and moved to the U.S. And right before that, there was a newspaper that interviewed me. They got wind of the project not going through. And once the story was published, the government ended up building the playground themselves. So,
You're like, I would have done this.
I know.
Oh my
It's fine.
gosh. But the kids got the playground at the end of the day.
They did. It was just, that's like where the social work side was coming in again, because I just wanted, like, you could see the sadness in the situation, but people like really making the best of their situation. And to be able to do that for them and their children, it just was like, I don't know, it was just a no-brainer for me.
Yeah. An easy way to bring joy. Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, I'm sorry that you had to hit so many walls, and I'm glad it ended up happening, but your persistence is impressive with that.
Thank you.
So now you have your own daughter, 6 years old. That's a really sweet age.
Yeah.
What do you like about being a mom?
Well, I think what I like the most, it's a little bit counterintuitive, I suppose, is I've had to really do a lot of growth myself.
That's not counterintuitive. That makes a lot of sense. It
Yeah.
probably brings out wounds you didn't even know you had.
Yeah, you go into it thinking like, okay, I'm all set, like I've done my emotional work, and then you're given these opportunities and experiences and situations where it's like, oh, wait a minute, like I didn't even know this work needed to be done because I was never put in that situation to have to do the work. And so when you have your own kiddo, it just, makes you really look under the rug and, clean up all the cobwebs. And I would say that like I'm only just starting because I have so much stuff in my past to like work through. And I don't know, this is going to sound terrible because I'm becoming a social worker, but I don't know that therapists really know how to help me. And I don't know that I'm in a unique situation or what it is exactly. And so like a lot of self-study and just a lot of personal work that I feel like I've just designed myself along the way. But now like I really feel like I'm coming through and things are just slowly starting to actually feel good.
Wow.
So it's just been literally hard up to this point, and I'm starting to experience like little bits of good, and it's like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, seeing the light. And
Yeah.
I don't think you're alone in that. I mean, I value therapy a lot and I respect it a lot, but I don't think you're alone in that feeling of what's going to finally help me break through whatever I need to break through.
Right.
Is it finding a different person or a different technique? And I think it can get exhausting. So I think you going into it, having that empathy and not feeling threatened by that, if somebody feels that way, it's going to be really key for you.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
But it's definitely a journey always. You're making me want to do yoga right now.
And
I'm like, I'm tight. I went rafting the other day and
fun.
I'm like, talk about having muscles you didn't know you didn't use. I was like, and I was so scared to go. I was so mad at my husband for inviting me, which is stupid. But I was like, I'm terrified. I don't know how to whitewater raft. And last time I tried, I fell out of the boat and, but I did it. And it was so fun. And we saw a bear. It was super cool.
How close were you?
We were in the water. So it was just like maybe 20 feet on the shore. It was so special. It's the only second time in my life I've seen a bear in person. So
yeah, they're pretty magnificent.
They're so magnificent. I think it's getting all chunky for winter. It looked very healthy. It was so cute.
That's good to hear.
So yeah, it turned out to be good, but I had so much anxiety beforehand, but I'm glad I did it.
Good.
Nobody got hurt. Didn't even fall out.
So, there you go. Now that you have that positive experience, you'll want to do it
I know.
again.
It's like the horses. I fell off and now we went to like a theme park thing and we jumped off a cliff and did the swing.
Oh.
And it was terrifying, but so fun and exhilarating. And then our next activity was riding horses, like these horses that are so bored and they just do this all day long. Okay. And I had more anxiety on that freaking horse that was like, doo, doo, doo. And my anxiety was like through the roof. And I think just need to get over that past fear.
Did it help?
No, I was like, I didn't want to get, this thing can buck me off any moment. It can do whatever it wants. It's way bigger than me. And it knows that I'm scared because everyone always tells you. The horse knows when you're anxious, which then makes me more anxious, trying not to be anxious. So,
yeah, it's really compounding.
Yeah. But you said your daughter's starting to work with horses a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We'll see. I don't think she's going to realize the gift.
Yeah.
You know?
When I was little, I had a huge obsession and we went camping at this campground and there was a horse down the way and I had to have an adult come with me if I wanted to go pet it.
Oh.
And so finally my mom's like, okay, but this is my last time. Like she was so done. And the next day I was like, Mom, I found a surprise I want to show you. I was like, you gotta come with me though. And I was like, it's a surprise. And it was just the horse. I wanted to pet it again. So
do you still have that obsession, but you just don't want to ride them?
I have an obsession now, but it's with my dogs. I've just transferred it to smaller creatures that don't scare me as much.
No, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, they're my pals. We go hiking all the time. And
yeah, I don't think we have to overcome like every single one of our fears. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So what?
I was like convinced I would own a horse when I grew up, but then I'm like, it's a whole lifestyle. and not for me.
Yeah.
But I respect people who do. I think it's very cool. I think the therapy aspect of equine therapy is very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So for you as a little girl, you left behind your home culture and then your family too, and moved in with an American family. So a lot of times when kids, relocate to the US, they have their bubble of their family with the same language, traditions, background, and then they have the external society and school that they're kind of balancing. But for you, it was a level on top of that because you had an American family that you're living with.
Mm-hmm.
How did you navigate that?
Well, I'm not sure how I navigated it. Like sometimes I look back and I'm like, wow, how did all of that even happen and play out, and how lucky I was for the decisions that I made from like moment to moment to be like a healthy person basically. And so yeah, I heard the term third culture kid 1 year ago, and it was at the Living Library event that happens at BSU once a semester. It's really fun if people haven't gone.
Can the public go to that too?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can you explain what it is?
Sure. It's like hard to explain. I don't know why. But what happens is basically people are the books. So they're the living books. And then as a collective, it's a living library. And at the event, you can check out a book, which basically means that you go and you sit with the person telling the story. And it's usually just like a small part of their life because they only get 20 minutes to share the story. And you're with 10 other people that are also interested in checking out the living book.
Okay.
And so the person tells the story, and then there's an interactive element where you can ask questions and things. And you can go and listen to multiple people during the event. So usually you can fit in about 3.
Okay.
And so the first time I went to a book that was told by Ray, and she is like a really classic example of a third culture kid because her parents, I think her father was in the military, so they moved around a lot of international moving around as well. And she put it like so perfectly. She said, it's like you fit in everywhere and you fit in nowhere. And so that I definitely like when I heard that concept, we're really good friends now. So when I heard that concept, I was like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Like that's why I feel this way that, I haven't really been able to identify. I haven't been able to speak to anybody about how it feels. And so I think like my experience is like third culture kid, like taken to the next level because I didn't have that bubble. And I think because I don't have that bubble still, I think that's why it's been hard for me to find like that sense of belonging, that sense of community. And I think it exists. It's not like I'm done with the search. But at the same time, it has made it that much harder.
I think your story will resonate with a lot of people because I know a lot of people my age have maybe left behind their community or religion that they had as a kid and are now like, what do I replace that with? Or they might feel like sometimes I ask people about their culture all the time in this job, and I'm like, what's my culture? What's my tradition? It's harder to put it for me, like a definition on it. So I can't relate to what you're saying. I have a different experience, but I think some people will know that sense of, okay, now that I'm an adult, where do I belong anymore? Like, what does that look like? And finding that and building that as you get older.
Yep, definitely a huge parallel there.
That's cool. Did you have any traditions that you were able to carry on in your life that you honor from either India or Nepal that you still enjoy?
I haven't, and it's like this. Yeah, I just haven't. I have a cousin who lives in Connecticut, and that's my only like blood relative that lives in the U.S. And she's always trying to like get me to do these different things. So Indians are very superstitious. And so she's sometimes like if somebody thinks really good things about you, then there's a ritual that you can do to like offload being kind of like not be so that you're not jinxed.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
Yeah. Like knocking on wood, but
Yeah.
like more complicated.
Yeah. So she's like, take some Himalayan salt, the pink salt,
Yeah.
and like put it in your fist really tight and rotate your fist like 3 times clockwise, 1 time counterclockwise, and then throw it into the sink and then don't say anything for a while. I'm like, I already lost you. Like, I don't have...
You didn't do it?
No. Yeah. I don't think I was around the culture enough to make it a part of my life because I would go home and visit every other summer.
Okay.
And so I just don't think it was enough time to like absorb it. So like I don't even know how to make Indian food. I'm a lost soul.
I don't know how to make most things, so don't feel bad. I blame my mom because she was such a good cook. I was like, no, I'm going to go to my mom and dad's house. I want to eat something good.
That's so nice.
No, I'm just kidding. That's funny that the salt thing, I'm going to have to try. I have some left over from my wedding because we poured salt, the whole like salt in the leather bag thing.
Oh, nice.
So I have a jar of that pink salt. So next time I feel jinxed, I'm going to go to the sink.
Okay. Yeah. And if you need instructions,
I'll let you know how it goes.
I'll message her and be like, I need you to write this down.
Yeah. Send it to me in a text. But I think ritual is really cool. And I think it doesn't always have a place in my life. Or I don't know what ritual to do, but I respect it so much. And I think it's a special like practice to pause and like do something intentional, for different things. So I am trying to find ways to incorporate ritual into my life that feel true to me or feel good to me.
Yeah, I love that reminder because like it made my heart feel warm as you were talking about ritual. So I can tell that it's something that I'm also ready to incorporate. And as like being a mother becomes slightly easier, I think there's actually the space that's being created and the energy for me to actually do something like that. So
With
that's
your daughter.
It's such a lovely reminder.
That's really cool. I'm still in a place in my life which I probably don't have much time left to sit on the fence about kids. It's been like slowly creeping in more and more like, you need to decide. I'm like, oh, no, I don't.
Do you want children?
I don't know. That's the thing that I'm like, I feel pretty content. But then there's some things that I think would be really cool. And that's to like create your own tradition and your own rituals and your own adventures. Obviously, that's a very idealistic view. I know there's a lot of non-idealistic things involved, but that part of it, I think, would be pretty special to like have. But honestly, I have no idea what I want to do, and I know I don't have all the time in the world. I used to tell myself I'll decide when I'm 30, and that was 5 years ago. So I was like,
oh no.
So
yeah, I was 35 when I had
really.
my daughter. I was also at like the cusp of like, okay.
I know.
But we'll talk offline.
I know, right? This is TMI.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody.
No, if my daughter ever listens, I don't want to say something.
She's like, Mom. No. I think I'm officially in the age of being a geriatric. Is it geriatric? How do you say that? Pregnancy. I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah, you'd be considered. Okay, so I'm going to think of it, but it's a terrible term. Nobody likes it.
I know, but whatever.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty happy right now with my
advanced maternal age.
Advanced maternal age. Why'd you have to tell me that?
Yeah, but as I was saying it, I was like, advanced. That's not a terrible word.
That's true.
Maternal.
Very advanced in lots of ways. No,
Yeah.
just kidding.
Maternal's fine.
There you go.
Age is wisdom, so
Thank you. You just made me feel so much better about that. Oh my gosh. Sorry, Mom, if you're listening. My mom was so desperate to be a grandma. Thankfully, I have 2 older brothers who are producing, so I have 6 nieces.
You're off the hook.
I know, right? But I'm her only daughter, so I don't know. But she was so desperate for that first announcement of who was going to get pregnant and like when she could be a grandma that she was at the store and she went out to the parking lot, and she does this all the time. Sorry, Mom, I love you so much, but she does this all the time where she goes to the wrong vehicle. Like one time her and I had all the groceries loaded into this car, and I'm like, wait, you don't have leather seats. And I was like, abort mission. And we're like, got it out as fast as we could.
Oh my gosh.
So we're always giving each other crap for this, and she's done it on other occasions as well. Sometimes not even the same, like make or model. It's lovely. It's one of my favorite things about her. But one time when she was in this mode of like waiting for the grandma announcement, she went to a car and there was a car seat in the back. And instead of being like, oh, this isn't my car, she was like, oh, maybe this is their way of telling me.
Oh my gosh.
Mom,
that's hilarious.
calm down.
I love quirky things. That's such a great story.
Yeah, I love that about her. But now she's got her 6 grandgirls, so yeah, I'm off the hook, as you say.
Yeah, I think she's all set.
Yeah.
I think this decision can be just you.
I told my brother, I was like, don't wear her out on childcare before I have kids. I'm going to need her. But
don't worry.
It's my
she
fault.
Still has a placeholder
I
for
waited
you.
too long. No. So, oh, man. Well, thanks so much for taking the time and chatting with me. It's really fun to get to know you more. And I am super looking forward to your workshop. And I'm going to have to do some yoga practice beforehand to get ready. So
it's for beginners.
Okay.
So just come in.
There's
as you
no
are.
crow pose.
Oh,
I cannot tell you
no.
how many times I've fallen on my face. But
we are just going to do the stretches that help you sit for the amount that we need to for the meditation.
Okay.
And so it's just going to get you to like that feel good space.
Perfect. I'm really looking forward to it. Well, thank you, Sangam, for being here and sharing about your life, sharing about who you are, and for giving back to the community in this way. I'm really grateful I got to know you.
Yeah, thanks, Holly.
Thank you for joining the conversation. For more information on how to be involved with refugee resettlement, please visit idahorefugees.org. Mosaics is produced by the Idaho Office for Refugees with grant support from the M.J. Murdoch Charitable Trust. Music by the Afrosonics. Production in partnership with SB Studios.